Hello, welcome to another video from the Conscious Music School. My name's Simon Siddle, and this video is part 6 of our series, Conscious Life Hacks for Savvy Musicians. In part 6, learn to sing and use it as a mind and memory aid. Your singing voice has a connection through to your subconscious mind in such an innate and simple and animally immediate way that any physical external musical instrument you play simply could never challenge that level of connection and intimacy that you have with your own voice. As such, it is a very peculiar and particular musical instrument that you do not actually have to be a proficient performing master with. You do not have to have a voice that you would be proud to perform with in order to gain great advantage from using your voice as a musician. There is a part of your mind where tunes simply wander through, sometimes without even your permission. Have you ever noticed that that part of the mind that remembers tunes almost never gets them wrong? Perhaps you mix tunes up sometimes that you've been learning together, but the idea that it have a wrong note in it somewhere is anathema to the whole function of that part of the mind, let alone that you would listen to a tune in your mind and some of it was out of tune to you. It just doesn't happen, does it? So this is one of the superpowers of the connection you have through to your own voice, is that that part of the mind, which has an almost pristine perfection of memory of things that it has heard and maybe even things that it has simply imagined, can have a very animalistic connection through to your voice, which is a method of externalizing what's in your mind. And therein lies its superpower. You can use that part of a mind as a little jotter pad. So in the midst of studying something, you may want to remember 4 notes played a particular way, and then you want to get busy with 3 minutes of something else. If you simply try to remember those 4 notes in your mind and then you get busy doing something else for 3 minutes, that thought will just be one of 1,000 musical thoughts you may have had in the last few minutes that becomes an arbitrary choice in your mind. But if it's the only thing you have externalized in the past few minutes to go do-dee in your voice, then your animal body will have experienced some more of that than simply it being in your brain. And that will make it stick in your memory so well that even 3 minutes later, after you've done something completely different in your study, you can simply go back to your voice and go, what was that tune I sang a minute ago? Oh yeah, do-dee, do-dee. Something very close anyway. That's one part of what you can do with your voice when it's in connection to your mind. Secondly, you can use your voice as a pitch ruler. If you are not so skilled at transcription and simply understanding the music that you're hearing in that moment, that you can simply write it down straight away, if you want to be able to dissect a tune that you could sing, you could copy in your voice before you knew how to write it down, then using your voice, you can simply pause on 2 of the notes in the melody and switch back between the 2 and go, oh, that's a major third. I understand now. That's on a leading 7th and it's on a 5th, isn't it? Right. By being able to capture a melody in your voice before you have any other understanding of it, you can then use that as something that your mind can put a microscope to and understand further. Another thing that your voice can do for you in your musicianship is to fill in details that your fingers have not yet mastered in a piece that you're learning, or to emphasize a part of what you're learning and to focus it in the mind. You can use this part of your mind which has tunes running through it to fill in parts of the music that you're learning right now, so that your hands don't have to be able to completely cover everything that you're learning. You can fill in the patches that your hands haven't learned yet with your imagination and with your voice. And by not just being in the imagination with it, but by being in the voice with it at the same time, you are bridging the gap between the physical in your hands and the entirely intellectual in your mind. By using your voice, you're in a halfway house between the two, and it means that joining back in with your mind, joining your hands back in with what's going on in your mind afterwards, will not be such a jarring experience. And obviously, alongside all of these internal uses of the voice, it's also a fantastic manner in which to communicate with other musicians. The simplest and most honest there is. And once you have a voice that can confidently pass on small amounts of musical information to other musicians, you'll never have to explain half of what you explain again. The wonderful thing about this is that you don't actually need a terribly high quality voice, either in pitch control or even breath control and tone control, in order to get these benefits from it. You just have to have a functional voice, that's all. Obviously, it helps if you don't hate the sound of your own voice. If you can pitch with vague accuracy and you can sing simple tunes without getting pitch lost in the middle of it. There are many methods for bringing yourself up to proficiency with your singing. You can probably find dozens of them already on YouTube, and I'm not going to go terribly far into the methods of how you become proficient at singing. But what I will broach with you here is the concept that before you ever even go into any technical concerns as to how you're going to become proficient at singing, there is the thought that maybe you don't sing, or you're not proficient at singing right now, because you've already sustained some emotional or energetic wound in your ego concerning your voice. There are many, many children in this world who sometime at school, before the age of 15, go through an experience where they've never been taught actually how to fully control their voice yet, and they end up being more out of control than anybody else in a particular little group of people singing something at school. And in a tired and frankly somewhat unforgivable moment, the teacher has just gone, you just don't bother singing for now. And somebody's voice is effectively, musically and emotionally negated all in that moment. And it's not a good thing. It's damage. And it's happened to many, many more of us in some way or another than we suspect. If you're the kind of person who shrinks at the idea of being heard while you're singing in the shower, then you probably have this wound to some degree. It's important to realize that the voice is actually quite intimately linked up with our self-identity. It is the sound of us, just like there is a look of us and a feel of us and maybe even a scent of us. There is also a sound of us, and that identity is our voice. So when somebody early in your life tells you that your voice doesn't fit in or it's not functional in this circumstance, that can be a serious energetic block. And it's important to give that deep thought and deep consideration for enough time to let it bubble up through your mind whether that is the case or not. That may have never happened, and in which case you can just carry on learning how to sing. But if it has happened, you need to address it. You really need to address it. As painful as it might be, when you're past that place, the energy that will come through you when you sing will be something that you only experienced before that part in your life. There probably was a time when you were very young when you did actually indeed love your voice and could project all sorts of energies, all sorts of emotions through your voice. You can return to that place so long as you are prepared to heal. Once you've addressed that possibility that you are carrying some kind of emotional wound, because If anybody ever has insulted your voice or told you to shut up in a way that really did shut you up, well, your voice is a very, very personal part of yourself. That is not some minor injury there. It's something that's filtered right through you, because your voice is part of your identity, isn't it? So addressing anything to do with a lacking of the sense that you have a right to make noise, that you have a right to express any emotion you want through your voice, that you have a right to wail uncontrollably and make an ugly noise and not have people blame you for it. There's a concept in magic that the witch that can't kill can't heal either. And that concept lends itself to many other processes in life where if you can't do something to one extreme, you can never do something to another, to its opposite extreme. And in the case of singing, the aspect of it that you're trying to reach for, the musically useful aspect of it that you're trying to reach for, which is that place where you can control your pitch and not get pitch lost while you're singing, and use it as a musical instrument for your own coherent thought and for other people's benefit too. That's at an opposite pole to you being able to just let anything that is in your psyche, in your body, in your emotions, through your voice and let it out without anybody around you coming in to the room as you're doing it and going, what the hell is going on here? If you can get to a place where you really have let go properly and felt zero concern for anybody else, zero shame about the freakish noise you might be making, whatever that freakish noise is that you feel like you need to make, that imprint of freedom will actually soften any of the tensions, the emotional and energetic tensions you have in you, that would prevent you from actually exerting full control over your voice. You could almost think of it, your voice, as like a companion animal for you. And it's only when you've actually let that companion animal do what is thoroughly natural to it, whatever that might be. It might just be taking it for a walk. But whatever it is that animal has to do that's thoroughly natural, it's only when you've established with it that you're going to do that and you're going to look after it like that, that it will come your way and trust you with everything else that you want to do as well. If you don't establish that kind of rapport with what nature needs, it's very hard to draw it your way. So I've got a long time talking about that, but it's a very important thing. It's beyond the scope of this video to recommend you any methods of how you might go about tackling your emotional issues with your voice, but I will recommend that you do take that seriously and tackle whatever emotional issues you have with your voice before you come to any technical considerations about learning how to sing. The subconscious and the emotional mind has great power to veto and ruin any attempt that the conscious mind has to do something that the subconscious mind doesn't want done. So if the subconscious mind is running with a script of, no, I'm not going to sing because somebody's going to attack me for it, your singing lessons will not be fun. So get the emotional stuff out of the way first. By getting rid of any shame that you might have about the fact that you might be a grade 8 plus guitarist and yet you have the singing skills of a 2-year-old. For a lot of musicians that could cause an element of shame, that there's something that's quite simple about them that they're not particularly capable of, even though they could be from just semi-conscious habitual use. It's important to just forgive yourself about that and go back into beginner's mind. Remember how you were when you first touched that musical instrument that you're grade 8 plus at. Or if you teach, then, look at some of your beginner students and the fascination they have with that instrument and just learning how to make the first few tones on it. That is the mind that you want to get into when you're learning how to actually get to be friends and the master of, eventually, your voice. So get the emotional stuff out of the way first. And then, once that's out of the way, you want to be studying breath control. Now, conscious music school would pretty much demand, wouldn't it? Learn pranayama. That's perfect breath control. Learn how to listen and get feedback on the pitch and tone of your own voice and how it mixes with any other music you might be playing at the same time. Learn how to sustain your voice while you take your attention onto other things as well as your own voice in the room. Learn how to control steadiness of pitch, which is a combination of both of the previous studies of breath control and a feedback of listening. And then finally, when you're steady with pitch, learn how to affect small baby steps of movements, tones, semitones, minor thirds. The intervals of speech, which rarely jump as far as a fourth, are quite natural to the human body, quite natural to the human voice. If you can come to a place where these rudiments feel natural to you, just like playing a guitar or a piano, stepping a third or a fourth might be the most natural thing to you now. This is the route through to beginning to get a subconscious animal connection to that tune-bearing part of the mind. Once you have that amount of pitch control, just enough to not get lost in a tune, essentially, the connection between the inner workings of your mind and this path out into the audible world can begin to connect up. So even if you have no intention of ever singing in public for the rest of your life, it really is worth the time and the money even for lessons and the energy involved to get past any issues you have with your voice and to learn how to become proficient with it for the sake of your whole musicianship. I promise you, it'll positively impact just about everything in your musicianship eventually. You like that video? Great, then hit the like button. And if you want to hear more like that, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon as well. The Conscious Music School is a brand new venture and can really do with any help that you might offer, even if that help is simply posting this video somewhere where you think somebody else might find it useful. I thank you very much in advance for that. But more importantly, get involved. One of the missions of the Conscious Music School is to start deep and complex conversations about music, musicians and musicianship. So tell me in the comments below, how close is the relationship between your musical memory and your singing voice? Can you accurately pitch the tunes that you hear in your own head? Or if you want to get really involved, you could come and check us out over at theconsciousmusicschool.com, where over the coming months we'll be releasing courses for musicians and music lovers alike. Finally, I want you to know that the series that you're watching here, Conscious Life Hacks for Savvy Musicians, is in fact a very vanilla introduction to the work of the Conscious Music School. I'm producing another series entitled Deeper Considerations for Musicians. But if you want to watch that series, I'm afraid you'll have to follow me over to another platform which is not so fond of censoring people the moment they stand outside of their narrow corporate mindset. Sorry, but that's the nature of the platform that you're watching it on, as much as it is the nature of the Conscious Music School to point out such awkward truths. So come over where the air is lighter. I've left some links below. And that's all I've got for you today. Thank you ever so much for watching. I do appreciate your time and your attention, and I salute the conscious musician within you. You have a great day, and I'll see you again very soon.